Hello there, Cancer. Thank you so much for stopping by for your Tarot Insights video today. What I'm doing is I'm looking at one life cycle going on in your life right now. We all have several life cycles, and a lot of times they will tend to overlap. So one life cycle can be impacting more than one aspect of your life. But a life cycle just basically sets us up to learn something or to experience something. And then as the life cycle finishes up or completes or fulfills itself, we see what happens as we integrate that lesson or that experience into our lives. So the first thing we're going to look at is the setup for the lesson or experience. Then we're going to look at the lesson or experience itself, and then the fulfillment as you integrate that lesson or experience into your lives, Cancers. Now, of course, this is a general reading, so not everything I see here is going to apply to everybody, but the setup of this spread should be very present tense for most of you. And so when you're listening to the setup for this lesson or experience, if you're finding that most of it matches up pretty well with things that you're experiencing right now, then that would tell you that this reading is probably intended for you. If you're finding out that it doesn't really match up and you just can't relate, then what you maybe have going on is that this does not apply so much to you. And so I wouldn't, once you get to the end of the setup, if you're not really feeling it, I would say that the reading probably is not for you. A good psychic should be able to get about 85%, but since we're doing a general, that kind of dilutes it a little bit, but we should be able to get 85% hit or more generally, especially in a private reading. For those of you who haven't seen me before, I do offer other services. I have private 1 and 2 question readings or live readings. I also offer addiction relief service. I have internet readings for only $6 if you just want one question answered very affordably. And I have psychic parties or house clearings that I do if you happen to be in the Golden, Colorado area or within 2 miles of driving distance. Let's see, let's just get started. Let's put down the cards for you guys, Cancer, and see what comes up. La da da da, da da da, da da da. Apple juice and tea, my friends, blended together. Alrighty, let's look, Cancer, at your environment. The first card that I have does talk about environment, and what you need to know about environment as I read for you right now is that an environment can be anywhere where you have energy or effort invested. So for most people it shows up as home, but occasionally I will see it show up as work or school. So you want to kind of be open to where it is that I could be talking about for you. So what we have for environment is that you are really expecting that where you are is going to be helpful and uplifting and supporting you, especially supporting you, but it's really not supporting you yet. It's something that you're hoping for or that you can see coming down the road. And I do think it will end up supporting you. It's just that the time is not yet. So for instance, this may be that you're remodeling in your house, and right now everything is not very convenient in your home as you're doing that. Maybe you have all the furniture out of the bedroom as you repaint or lay new carpet or whatever, and so now is not the time to expect to be able to go and lay down comfortably in the bedroom. It's not going to work, but eventually that will be done. Same thing, could be a kitchen remodel, could be that you're moving at your work location, could be a lot of different things, but basically right now your environment is not supporting you very well, but soon it will be, and it's almost like you can kind of count the days to when it will be. All right, the next thing that we're looking at talks to me about your subconscious leanings. This tells me that there's something that has had you really stressed out and maybe even having a hard time focusing on everyday things because you're so focused on this thing. And your subconscious is working on, okay, how do we relieve that stress? How do we do some healing? How do we do some normalizing? How do we bring things into okay here in this situation so that we can actually manage our lives much better? Okay, so that's your subconscious leanings. I feel like my bracelet's on backwards or something. Anyway, let's move on. A little distraction on the part of the psychic. Okay, so next thing that we're going to be looking at here is your learning style and also your communication style. So learning style for you, really I think you're interested in what fascinates you. You're interested in the things that are beautiful to you. You're interested in the things that add to beauty and comfort and even wealth is what I'm hearing around you and in your home and in your environment. And so, your learning is really centering around that. You're really focusing on learning how to bring more of all of those good things in around you in your life and in your environment. The other thing that's coming up here that you're learning is you're also learning how to sideline those toxic people that aren't so good for you. That's something else that's going on simultaneously. While you're learning to bring in more good things, you're also learning to keep a distance from those people who may be putting up blocks, either intentionally or unintentionally, between you and those good things. Okay, looking at communication style. I think that right now you're doing a lot of communication with the universe, with Sacred Spirit, with God, with Source Energy. So growing a lot spiritually, doing a lot of communication in that direction towards that big creator power that is so much more than we are and yet still a part of us. So there's a lot of communication going back and forth in that direction, and that seems to be the focus right now. Now, this is not saying that there's not other communication going on as well, but the focus has to do with your communication with Source Energy or God, whatever name you want to put on that. Now, the next thing that I'm looking at has to do with work. And for me, I see work two ways. So we're actually looking at two things here. We're looking at work, what you do to feel like a productive part of society during the day. And then we're also looking at work as far as what you're doing to be more happy with your own personality, your own character, who you are. So we're going to look at outer work first. That has to do with money making or feeling like you're giving to society. And it looks like you're at a crossroads with work. You do have a decision to make about what direction you want to go, Cancers. So you may be considering working for another company, or you may be considering an actual career change into a complete different line. You may be considering, do I want to branch off and just work on my own? Should I be starting a sideline thing? There's a lot of different things that come into play here that could be how this is playing out for you, and it's going to play out a lot of different ways because we've got a lot of different Cancers watching here. But there's some kind of decision that you are having to make as far as work is concerned right now. The next thing that we're looking at is inner work. Inner work really ties in a lot with learning style right now. And the inner work has to do with following your heart more, doing more things that you like to do, doing more things because you want to do them, doing more things because they make you feel good. Not just because you should, or your husband or your wife thinks that you need to, or your parents think that you need to, or the neighbor lady wishes you would, or whatever, but because you want to. So maybe you're starting new classes in something that actually interests you just because you're interested in learning more about it. Or maybe you are just, taking more walks and taking more time for yourself. Maybe you are doing some meditation. Maybe you are getting your nails done and getting a massage. Who knows? But it looks like your inner work really is to pay attention to, what does my heart say about this? Do I like the idea of doing this? And then following what your heart is saying about it. Cool stuff there. Very enlightened stuff there, actually. Okay, so Cancers, next thing that we're looking at talks to me about that part of your personality which is being grown or expanded right now. And what this card basically is telling me is that you are digging in. This actually also goes along with what we had as far as learning style and communication style. Whenever I saw a lot of communication going back and forth with spirit, this shows too. This shows really digging in spiritually, finding out more information about how things work spiritually or about the other realm, the spirit realm. So this is really digging in. This is finding out how things work from a spiritual standpoint as opposed to from a mechanical or from a physical standpoint. So that's where I see you growing or expanding right now. You guys have a really enlightened theme going on so far. This is kind of cool. I don't know that I've ever done a general reading like this before. Next thing that we have coming up talks to me about those things that you stand for. This is funny, guys, because we were just talking about digging in spiritually, and if you look at this card, I'm actually using the Shadowscapes Tarot. This is actually the World card, but if you check out the picture, you can see this is like some kind of spirit goddess queen type looking person looking into, looks like a crystal ball or a globe of light. To me, she reminds me a lot of a high priestess, even though it is the World card. But this is, you know, you're standing for having clarity around what you're doing. You are completing a cycle, but you're more than completing a cycle. You also have a lot of clarity about the idea that you are actually completing a cycle and moving on to the next thing. A lot of people do that all the time. They complete cycles and move on to the next thing, but they're not really considering that. They're not really thinking about that. They don't really have clarity about it. They're kind of almost like just mindlessly, okay, this is where I am now, this is where I am now, this is where I am now, and not really thinking about what's going on or any of the implications. I think that you have a lot of clarity around the implications of the choices that you're making and the things that are happening in your life, the endings that are coming, you know, to completion, things that are coming out full circle. You're understanding that that's what's going on, and you're recognizing that this just means there's a new opportunity for things to come in where those types of things that you had before can be expanded and built upon. And I think that because a lot of us are surrounded by people who don't have that kind of clarity, I think that maybe you've actually had to stand up for yourself and say, you know, hey, it's okay if this is completed. Maybe you have a contract that's over at work. It's okay that this is completed because that makes time for the next contract that I've been hoping to sink my teeth into, or it makes time for me to spend a little time with my family until the next thing comes along, or whatever it may be for you. It doesn't have to be even a contract that's completing, but there's something that is completing, and you have clarity around that and around where you're going after that completion. And you're standing up to somebody for the idea that this is a good thing, where they may be sort of lamenting the completion. So you're having to stand up and kind of show them and kind of explain to them. All right, so the next thing that we have coming up is how someone perceives you. This actually is a really beautiful card. This is called the Lover's card. Once again, Shadowscapes Tarot. I like the doves around there. And then, yeah, I was going to say something, but I don't actually see that in this card right now. So anyway, I do think that there is somebody who is just seeing you as somebody who is an appropriate partner, who is either appreciating you as a partner, and this doesn't have to be romantic, it could be business, although I feel like for a lot of you it is romantic. I just don't feel that that's the way it is for all of you. But somebody is seeing you as an appropriate and perfect partner. So if you're partnered with somebody, I think they're appreciating what you bring to the table in that partnership. And if this is somebody that's more of a prospective type person, I think that they're realizing that, you know, you would be a pretty good catch for them. All right, so everything that we've talked about so far is all present tense stuff, so you should be recognizing all of this stuff right now. Next, we're going to talk about the lesson or experience, and then after that, we'll talk about what happens as you integrate that lesson or experience into your life. Now, with the lesson and the things following, some of this, for some of you, you will already be walking into this. You'll already be experiencing some of this stuff. For others of you, it's still coming down the pike, so you might recognize the writing on the wall that it is on the way, or you may not. Okay? For everybody that has made it to this point in the reading, if most of what I said resonated with you, great. Then that means that the rest of the reading is probably pointed towards you. For those of you who most of what I said did not resonate, if you're still here, you shouldn't be. This reading is probably not really for you at all. And I would expect that for those of you that it is resonating for, say whatever percentage of this stuff you recognize and you can see happening in your life, I would expect about that same percentage of stuff that I'm going to be saying next to be coming into your life in the future. Now, please know, free will can change anything. So even for those of you that everything resonated perfectly, if somebody who touches the situation, whether it's you or somebody else, has a change in free will and that changes how they interact with the situation, then that can change the outcome. So nothing's written in stone, even for those of you that this resonates 100%. But this does give you a pretty good idea. Okay? So next we're going to look at lesson or experience. Lesson or experience, what I'm really feeling off of this card when I look at it is that you guys are learning to focus through the distractions. So if there are distractions around you, you're learning not to pay so much attention to them. You're learning not to let them distract you anymore like they used to. So for some of you, if you've been deepening your spiritual practice and all of this stuff, this could be learning how to meditate and focus through all the stuff that's going on around you. But for others of you, this is going to manifest in some other way. There's about as many ways as this could manifest as there are people watching this video. So you guys kind of have to put the puzzle pieces together here and figure that out. But you're learning to focus through the distractions and not to let the distractions distract you like they used to. The next thing that we have, as you're learning to focus through your distractions, I feel like there are some responsibilities that you're putting down. Maybe you've been carrying the load for somebody else and you're deciding, you know what, I can't take care of my stuff and take care of your stuff. I just don't have that many resources or that much time or whatever. And so you're putting down some of those responsibilities. Maybe you have multiple jobs so that you can make ends meet. Some people do that. Maybe you're deciding it's time to quit one of those jobs so that you have time to breathe a little bit. Okay? But there's some kind of responsibility that you're putting down. You're setting that load down. You're not going to carry it anymore. I don't really mean that you won't have any responsibility, but there's something that you're setting down. Now, the next thing that comes up here is that you are having some kind of healing. And to me, this is going to be more about an emotional healing that is coming into you, okay? Maybe setting down those responsibilities allows you to have the time to do that. Maybe not paying attention to the distractions allows you to do that. Maybe you had people around you that were distracting you from being able to get your healing. Maybe they were making the situation worse instead of better, and now you're learning to keep them at arm's length and to follow your happiness. And so some of your healing is coming in because you're not being distracted by all the naysayers and the negative Nellies around. Okay? Let's see. Ultimate fulfillment of this life cycle. Ultimate fulfillment of this life cycle actually has some financial implications here. And this tells me that there are going to be some things loosening up for you financially. It looks like you've been going through a time cancers where your budget may have been kind of squeezing you just a little bit tight. And so as we come into the ultimate fulfillment of this, we're finding that there's breathing room now in that budget. There's a little bit of more play space than what there used to be. So maybe things are coming into a place where they're all getting covered. You know, maybe you quit a part-time job or some part-time jobs because you got a full-time job and now you've got good benefits and decent pay. You know, things like that could have happened. But there's definitely something coming up here that has to do with finances that's saying this is bringing you into a better place. You know, you're following your heart. Maybe you quit a job that, you know, really was not making you feel very fulfilled at all, so that you could spend more time doing what it is that makes you feel fulfilled. And lo and behold, people are willing to pay you to do what makes you feel fulfilled. I mean, yeah, look at me. I quit a perfectly good job with people that loved me and wanted me to stay just to become a full-time psychic, because I didn't feel like that job really was impacting the world for good the way that I could as a psychic and as a reiki practitioner, etc. And so lo and behold, when I quit that job, eventually things started working out so that I could support myself. This is kind of what this is reminding me of, that, you know, you may not be quitting your job to do something full-time, but you are following your heart and you're doing something that makes you really feel good and fulfilled. And I really do believe that the world is rewarding you for that in some way, because the world tends to do that. When we're happy, doing things that make us happy, that makes other people happy, and they like to reward us for doing that. So this is what I see here, is that you're following your heart. You're getting out there more with who you are, doing the things that you love to do. And ultimate fulfillment here is a financial benefit, really very monetary, very tangible benefit. So yay. That's what I have to say about that. Now, these life cycles typically can last anywhere from 20 minutes to 30 days. This is all really going to depend on how much you embrace or resist the lesson or experience. So it's all about your free will here as to how long this life cycle can take. But I do see lots of good stuff coming in for you here. This is awesome. I don't know that I've ever had this pleasant of a reading to give anybody. So thank you, all of you Cancers who have stopped by. Wishing you all the best, and I hope to be of service to you personally soon. Peace out.